In this tutorial, you're gonna learn how to crush any d4 player, especially online, where they don't know the main gambit, which is the Englund Gambit, but even more so, the gambit within the gambit, which is the Charlick Gambit. Very little known this, but this is ruthless gambit, I'm telling you, to surprise and crush any d4 player, London system players, which you can find so many online, and Queen Gambit players, of course, many of them too. You can crush any of them because they will not feel comfortable with these positions. It's different setup, very aggressive attack that you can develop with black against the white king. And just try this, watch the video until the end and learn yourself how to level up your chess just by adopting an unusual response with black against one of the most common opening move with white d4. So without further ado, let's jump into the opening. So the thing is, with this Englund Gambit following move, knight c6, in which you have many tricks and ideas, and it's decent approach to respond d4 games. Nonetheless, in this opening guide, what I want to introduce you is a different approach, which is even less familiar. d6. This approach, not many players, not many d4 players will know how to respond well, and they will just use their logic and common sense to continue. So most players will accept that. We'll get what happens for players who play something like this and this later down the road, what we can call as the declined variation. But for those, and most of them will take here, you should take back with a bishop, and then let's say simple development, knight f3, you kind of not pin, but put pressure on that knight and develop, more importantly, develop your bishop from the queen side with the idea to castle in the queen side and place your nasty rook in front of the queen in return to the pawn you sacrifice in the beginning. So this is the key idea in this kind of game. And by the way, it resonates with my anti-Scotch gambit. I will later add the card to this video, which is a nasty, tactical, unusual opening I developed to refute the Scotch game. And the ideas are quite similar. And if you combine these two openings, you kind of repeating the same idea, so you don't need to expand your knowledge to too many openings. And it's very wise in terms of preserving your energy in chess, which is key element to succeed in chess. So you can master similar setups and opening ideas for different first move of white, e4 or d4. Back to the game, let's say he does knight c3, then you continue with your idea. Yeah, first of all, releasing all the minor pieces from the queen side. And then most players will play e3, very common move to keep the development going with this light square bishop. And then what you do is queen e7. Put pressure on this file and of course planning the next move to castle in the queen side. Most players will play something like this, blocking the pin, and then you go on with your ideas, castling in the queen side. And now, first of all, many newbie and beginner players will automatically play, well, next move, let's give the development, let's castle short. But then all of a sudden, whoop, check. You have a discovery check on the queen, or even better, because after he takes with a knight, then he discover attack on this bishop. What you would like to do, maybe first is even better, is to take here, and if he takes back, you win a queen, and if not, you just earn a free piece, right? You keep exchanging, and yeah. And so this is a common mistake that many players, beginner players, will do, and those who are more aware and advanced, of course, will not castle short now, and maybe play something like this. Bishop d2 to block this brutal file you have with a rook. And so, but what you can do here is simply go on with your development and placing the knight on f6. And now, let's say if he castles short, you can continue with your attack with h5, and the evaluator already show that you have a slight advantage over here already, and you see how your pieces are active in return to that pawn, and of course the open file. And let's say he will try to kick out your bishop, which is a very common idea. Then first of all, you should be aware that this bishop is not actually in a threat. And if you do something, even some defensive move like that, which is not that great to prevent his knight to go here, he can't actually take you. This is very known dynamic in chess, which everyone knows that is not good, because now if he goes here or there, you just simply, do whatever you want. Maybe something like this, and then come back with a queen to here and there, or maybe even better, maybe queen e6. You have plenty of ideas with the idea to mate him, and he's very miserable at this point. But this is just something if you forget what you should actually do here. So this is the kicker here. Even if you forget and you mix the moves order and so on, you will still be okay or even better. But here, you don't know a passive move like this. You can simply take over there. And if he takes back with a bishop, you comes on with your queen. Now you have a battery to do a checkmate in the next move. And the only move he has here, the only move is g3. And with after g3, you can simply go ahead and move your h4 pawn. And now he is being in a big trouble. He's not lost yet, but you already have 1.5 points in advance over him, right? Let's say he can do a lot of mistakes and you will win on the spot, but even if he knows how to defend well, you will still be better and you eventually should win. So let's explore some variations. Of course, here he can't take because checkmate, right? He can't move, checkmate. And what the best move for him, let's see, the engine says, let's say something along these lines, taking here. And now you should simply take back, because if you take here, it could be dangerous. You can take there and open this diagonal, and you don't want that, so we take back. And then let's see what the best move for him, if he moves something like, and most players will not play that, right? f4. This is the only move. Otherwise, you will win very quickly. If you go something like king g2, you simply take, right? And mate in 2. And if he does f4, then it's a bit worse, because you can move queen e6 with the idea to come over here. And he can't defend with the queen, only with a rook, sorry. But then you can double your rooks, and this will fall down sooner or later, and his king side is collapsing. But let's say he will play the best move f4. You are still better. You have an idea. He is not standing very well, to say the least. Now what I will play here, computers say knight e8 is the best move, but I prefer, as human, knight e6. The idea to go here, and if he move back with f5, I go back to my battery, and then he is lost again. Now, so f5 is not a good move. King g2 is not a good move either, because he simply takes, and then again his position is collapsing. And finally, the best move is g4. Then you can just shift your tension instead of over here, because he blocked you, then to move here with the bishops. And you see how you open this file of your rook against the queen, and now you have pressure over e3, which is very difficult to defend at the same time. So let's say he moved something along these lines. Knight e3 is very terrible. You can win very quickly by simply suck your knight over here, and you'll probably win here very quickly. Let's say he plays in rook e1. And here what you can do is, best move is simply keep your attack. g5. And now if he takes, you enter. You see the dark square in his king sides are so weak. So you want to enter here. You can suck. And if he's not going to take, let's say he do something like queen e2, then you take, and he can't take back because it's pinned. So see how problematic he is. You can suck later down the road, and bring the other rook. He is far worse. So this is the battery. We can see that h3 is not great move, to say the least. He needs to be very careful with each and every move he does in these kind of positions, which is already an advantage for you. You can play relaxed and just wait for his error. And so, Let's say he is defensive player and he wise, he know what he's doing, and he has a good common sense. So he plays knight e1, which still gives you the attacking possibilities. First of all, you can simply exchange here, which is an option. Or you can go to defense and do a6 and take the time, which is also good. Let's say take, and then you bring your knight to the game. And now you have double attack on h2 with both your minor pieces. And yeah, he can come back with a knight, but then you can do all kind of crazy things like even sucking here and add e6. And then you take there and you bring back your material. And then you're going to an equal and a slightly better ending game for you because you placed your rook in the second line. And this is the worst scenario for you because the main idea in this kind of opening, this is why I like them so much. I'm a tactical player. I like to remain as much as possible and more pieces on the board to complex the game and to have winning chances without reaching the ending game. But even if you get to ending games, you are equal or even better because your pieces are more active, and when they're more active in the middle game, it's very likely to get to the ending game with better positions and placement for your pieces, and which is a very critical factor in ending game, not just the material. Now, let's say he doesn't do h3, which most players will play that, to kick the bishop out. However, they can try to counterattack your attack and start initiating their pawns in the queen side, something like h3 and b4, or moving the rook over here to support this pawn, or maybe do h4 right away, right? Let's say they play h3, and then what you should do here is the same idea, with the only difference now you don't go here, because then he has this pawn too to support this. So it's less dangerous when you move on with your h-pawn. If you remember the last position, the last dynamic, they did h3. So remember, if he doesn't do h3, then he's more stable in the baseline. Then you exchange, but then suck the bishop, with the idea that if he takes, you move on with your knight, and if he takes here, then check. This is the whole idea of taking first with the bishop. Now we have to move back to the first, and then you just move on with your queen with an unstoppable checkmate. He can maybe sacrifice his queen. They try something like this or like that to have a room for the king after check here. Then you don't give a check, but rather block him with g3, and then it's game over. You can either checkmate him there or there. So see how outrageous and dangerous, tactical, unusual opening is for black. You can crush any d4 player in this way. If they are not prepared, if they are not sensible to this kind of setups, and many good players are not, because they're just not familiar with these setups, then even if they play one inaccurate move in the early stage of this middle game play, you just punish them on the spot and win or get a winning position. So what else do we need to cover? Let's say play the usual line, but here after e3 you play knight c6. It does you what you did to him or to her. You pin this knight to the queen, so he pinned your knight to the king. Pretty logical, right? And in this case, you simply need to divert your plan a little bit. Instead of playing queen e7, you play queen d7. Well, this is not exactly blocking the pin. It's still pinned to the queen. However, you're still progressing with your main ideas to castle in the queen side. And now you even have a battery here with both your rook and your queen. You will see next. So let's say he castles. You will not take here because now it's not your rook over there, but rather your queen. However, you're attempting to do so after castling. And if you try something like h3 to move away your bishop, then you do the usual discovery attack. But now you have two heavy pieces to attack this queen, and then you win your rook. right? If he takes there, simply take here, take there, and take here. Then you take here, and you are better because you can take there, and even if you take here, let's say he can't protect this pawn because he's pinned to his own rook. So this is kind of endgame when you have a slight advantage in material, but you're also far better in the position because this rook is out of the game. This knight is out of the game because it's pinned. So he only has his knight, this knight playing, and you can develop your pieces and maybe move over here and attempting to take here because exposing your rook over there and moving then to the first line and yeah, he is in such a bad ending game and you should win here. The Val bar gives you 2.5 points. Now let's say they don't fall into this tricky trick of the usual battery you have here and exchanging here and winning piece. Let's say they see that and either go with a bishop here to block that, or with a knight over here, or with a knight over to c3 to protect the knight. I think the best option is to move here to both blocking the queen and protecting again the c3 and protecting knight c3. And so what you should do instead of the same idea, h5, which is okay by the way, you can develop your piece, and then if he moves here, then not to do h5, but rather suck your bishop. Because now it's slightly different position, as you can see. When you take here, this is why I brought in my knight over to f6. As you can see, I'm gonna bring the knight over here with unstoppable attack in h2. So what he does here doesn't really matter because he's losing the game. If he takes here, for example, simply take back. Then let's say something like that, you move something like this. And if you do a check, you move here, he doesn't have any check whatsoever. He can't take here, but then you have check here. And now you can simply go back and do another check. He can't block you because you have a checkmate over here. Then you come back over there, and then you bring your rook to the game with tempi. Let's say he goes check over there. You can move over here. He can't take you with a knight, with a queen, and if he takes with the knight, then you're doing checkmate here. He can't move the knight at all. And here, yeah, he's devastating because you are attempting to move over there with the idea of checkmating in h1. You have both h1 and h2, and he's devastated. Okay, but let's say he does something else, not just e3 like many players do, or e4, right? Let's say they try to attack you in return and do bishop g5, attacking your queen. And then you can block it with the knight. I do it sometimes, but the better options I noticed recently is f6. And now, let's say he goes back here. You continue with your ideas, knight e7, and then if you want to attack you with a bishop, right, to ruin your whole idea here with open file and so on, you simply move on with the same idea. This is the nice thing about this opening over again. And now if he doesn't take, you are threatening to take with tempi about his queen. But if he takes himself, you take in return. Now his queen is in attack. If you try to block it something along these lines, you just simply play something like queen e6, or even better, queen e4. And now he can't play c4 to protect it. He can't run away because he will take it. So you win a piece. However, he will not play that because it's not a good move. He will play maybe something like running away to c1. And at this point, you can simply develop your knight over here, and then you have a lot of the same tactical opportunities, but a bit different, because now your knight is located over here with the idea to come here and enjoy the party, and you have an idea to move here, you will see. And let's say he does something like bring on the queen to f4. Then you can simply double your attack in the d file, right? And then maybe play g5, sorry. Look how active is your pieces. And let's say he's not going to here, but rather to e3 to attack your queen and suggest exchange, you know, to ruin your idea of remaining with all of your pieces on the board and creating attack opportunities. So you don't have to exchange here. You can simply do this trick in this situation, because if he takes there, then nice checkmate, because this is blocked, right? The king can't move. So, but even if he doesn't do that, maybe go to here, or maybe to another move, something like this to block you, then you can simply either place your rook here in front of his king, or place your rook to control this file, and you still have pressure over the knight. And if he moves, you have more pressure over here, and you can bring now your knight over there and maybe exchange knights over there and continue with your pressure over here and the pressure in c2. And yeah, I don't want to be white here. You have so many opportunities here and tactical moves. So yeah, we remain with two dominant lines for white, which are slightly better for white, and still in the accepted variation when he has his pawn in e5, sorry, on d6, and you take back with your bishop. So now, let's say move here, pretty standard. But now instead of doing e3, e4, or something along these lines, he straight away go with h3, kicking out your bishop, which is a logical move. So what you do now? What do you do then? In this case, you're probably better off not exchanging here, even it's possible. Keep your main idea here, go back with the bishop to h5, and then if he kicks it to g6, and he go with the bishop here, you then continue with this idea. And let's say he does something like h3 or h4, then you can simply rush with h4, and if he moves here, you can exchange over there, and you have a slightly better position because you still have your attack. You can bring your knight over there and then take and put your battery again. Very difficult for white to defend. Or if you go something along these lines, right, to attack you, then simply move here, and I don't know, if you do something like this, you can simply go h5, attacking this pawn, and you can't really protect him because you take here, or you take there, sorry, even better, and exposing your rook, X-ray rook attack on this king. As you can see, it's very difficult for white to defend against all these tactical ideas you have with the black pieces here, and totally recommending. And just one more line. Now let's say he doesn't do h3, but rather g3, right? g3 is the same flancito idea that a lot of people plays with a Catalan, with a d4, c4, or Reti with knight f3 and g3 and king. The opening of fianchetto in the king side is very common, especially advanced players play that in tournaments, and it's pretty solid for white, and they can utilize the same ideas over here. But still, here it's a bit different because you have your batteries, you have your same ideas you adopted previously. You can use them here in almost the same way. What you should do here is continue with the same idea. No, now he can castle. If he castle, you can still take here without check, but still winning this pawn. So he can't castle. Let's say he blocks you with a bishop, and then you can take now. But what you can do is simply moving forward with the development and then attacking with the same idea. In this kind of positions, it's very similar, only the difference you have g3 over here, right? And the bishop over here. You want to play h5 to break this structure. And if he takes, it's awful, of course, for him. And if he doesn't take, you take, and then your rooks come in to the last file. And so very useful here, the same ideas like against the Sicilian and the King's Indian white. But now you are black playing against white. So let's say he plays something, I don't know, e4, or no, not e4, e3. Then you can move on, right? This is pinned, and if you take, you take. But if he doesn't do that, so he could block you here eventually. If you do this on the spot, then you just do something like that, and not straight away, but maybe after you do something like that. Rook g8 or bishop b4 is another option. to make a pressure on this bishop from this side. And if he takes there, he just misses his strong bishop on the light squares. And also his knight can't get into this kind of squares, important squares to attack you, because you have your pawn here. So as you can see, it's better game for black. The Valbar favors black here. And if he does something else, not over here, let's say he places his knight over here and do something else. Let's say he does h3. Then you move on with this idea, breaking the structure of the fianchetto. This is very known, especially with white again, Sicilian and King's Indian, but it also takes place here. And now if he takes here, it's already breaking the structure. And if you take with a knight, you can take him also. Now placing your battery here. As you can see, for almost any move white plays, you have a lot of aggressive possibilities to crush him in the middle game. Now we go to what is called the decline variation. Some people will not take even in e5 the Englund Gambit pawn, which is the fully declined variation. I will show you that just in a minute. But some player will take on a5, but when you continue with this unusual move d6, offering another exchange, the Charlick Gambit, they will not take this pawn. They will be either suspicious and do some counter unusual moves. Some players do so, especially online. And some advanced players might even play this just because maybe they know a bit of the theory here, or they want to break your plan. So you are fine even in these variations. And I will show you right away. If you do this, what you need to do is simply develop your knight as usual. And now you're attempting to go and take here, not right away because it will exchange queen, but you simply can go development if you go with a knight here or with your queen over there, the same ideas. But if it takes at some point, right, you don't take right away. What you do instead is move queen f6, multi-purpose move. You attack all the 3 squares. There, most players will run away here. And then you simply grab the pawn and you progress with your usual development as I taught you here with this gambit, right? Let's say something like that. Then you attack the knight with a bishop and castle queenside, placing your rook very dangerously in front of the queen. And the usual stuff. In this case, you can place your knight over here even, and then bring the other rook here. And if he castles, move on with the pawn or exchanging here, and all the ideas that I explained earlier. And so this is pretty standard and playable. You have the same ideas that I explained earlier. And so let's say he doesn't go back with a bishop, but play queen c1. In this case, what you should do is simply grab that pawn the same way. If you exchange, so you grab it with the queen and you're equal, and can even become slightly better in some scenarios, but you are equal here and you are fine. You continue with your idea, castling at the queen side, development, and you are fine, right? You have this file open for you. You can move check here and then, or queen c5 with the idea to make pressure over here. You have plenty of ideas. Now, another option he has to decline your Charlick Gambit is, instead of going here, is coming with a knight to protect the pawn. What you should do in this case is similarly as you did earlier. Bishop g4, putting pressure on this knight, and let's say he keeps with the development, you keeps with yours until he takes. And the moment he takes the pawn, you go back to your main ideas of the Charlick Gambit, the dangerous ideas. As far as he doesn't take, you still have the pressure on e5, and maybe you can take it at some points, and then you will be equal in material. Let's say he does something like that, then you simply can take, and then take because you're already protected with the rook. You come along here, you go there, or you can exchange if you want to, just an equal game. And then you have your castle in the queen side. And if he continues here, you continue there with development. Or you can bring your rook over here and then castle short. You have your ideas in place. And finally, we remain with 2 main possibilities. Variation for white if he declines to take even the first pawn, not the d6 pawn as we saw just now, but the e5 pawn. He doesn't want to take even here. So one of the possibilities, he will play like d5. And then what you can do is simply bishop to c5, very common is to support this pawn by c4. Then you can either play d6, which is common to simply move with your development. You are pretty comfortable here. Or knight f6, which suggests a trick if you try to pin your knight and then you move with your knight in the middle of the board, suggesting your queen. And if it takes, checkmate, right? And if it doesn't take, you have double attack on this bishop. And if you just run away, then you checkmate, right? And he can't go back here because you just take him. So this is a nice trick, but all in all, most players will not do that because they're aware of that trick. So let's say they just develop and you can do d6 and you have Italian style development and you are very good here. Equal and even slightly better according to Agent. And lastly, if he doesn't want to go d5, he can also move c4. Which this is very typical to Queen Gambit players who will play that anyways, even in a pre-move. They will think that you actually play d5 and then just pre-move c4. And this, you just simply grab this pawn, and if he takes you back, you just get the tempo, attack the queen, and then if he goes back to the base, you simply go with development, and you are pretty fine here. You can try to ruin his pawn structure, and if he do something like that, you can attack him here, castle, and you are fine, you are equal here. Now, this is the less exciting version, right? So, but not many players will play c4 if they notice that you play e5. Only Queen Gambit player if they pre-move or they want to stick with this c4 because they're afraid of you with your unusual move. Most players will take here. So this is it. I want to now to exemplify 1 or 2 games I played on chess.com actually play, so you can better understand some other lines or some ideas that goes in other moves order. I think this is important. This is why I added it to the tutorial, and I hope you get value out of it. Interesting game I played recently against very high-rated player. It was so intense and tactical game that I should have won several times. I was winning across the board and just made a fatal mistake at the end, which happened especially psychologically when you play against 100 points rating more than mine. That can happen. If you play chess, you know that. But I want to introduce you this game because it shows you the ideas of the game. Even I mistakenly did another move, which is not exactly the same as I explain and usually play. I still have a very aggressive attack. So without further ado, let's jump into the game. d4, d5, e5, Englund Gambit, takes, and then the Charlick Gambit, takes. So far so good. Knight f3, if he does with a knight, first go with a bishop. This is my recommendation, even though you can do it first the knight c6 move. e3, as many players play. And here, I wanted to play queen e7, but instead I had a mouse slip. It moved to queen d7, which is okay. It also has decent logic behind it to attack and to double attack here as a battery, but it's less common. When you do here, just in a special occasion, as I explained, if he goes with a bishop over here, right? But generally you don't want to go there, you want to go over here to put your rook against his queen. So let's move on. Castle queenside, he moves back from the battery. Knight f6, a3, h5, h3, which is a mistake. Radical mistake of him. And now, as similar as showed you in one of the versions, I sacrifice here. If you have the battery here and he does h3, you can suck. And then remember, you have this idea when your queen here, as you can see now, takes, and this is fatal. This is ruthless attack over the king side, right? But now I made a mistake. You will see next. Knight e4, f6, which is already a mistake, but not the big one. And now he exchanged the bishop. What I should have played here is simply bishop h2. Bishop h2. Then he moves here. Then I move back and do check. Let's say over here. If he goes there, I checkmate him. If he goes there, I can then do something along these lines, and because I want to grab this knight over here so I can checkmate him. Very difficult to stop, and Engine said mate in 11 move or less. force mate in 11 moves. But I didn't do that, and instead I played f6, allowing him to exchange my bishop. But I'm still better, I'm still winning. Now e4, and now was one of the biggest mistakes, yet still not the big mistake. I should have played g5, moving forward with the attack, or something like rook d4, attacking here, or rook e6, attacking this weakness, and I didn't do that. Never mind. I did knight over here, bishop 4, which is very smart move. Now he brought his bishop to the defense, and now g5, too late. I'm still better, and I still supposed to win here, but now it's more complex because he can take, and I took with the f pawn, which is not that bad, but and now he made a big mistake. I just needed to move over here with this rook instead of this rook, and what I did is going with this rook, which is still good, but think about it. If I go with this rook, I'm going to eliminate this knight, and then this open file is still blocked by this rook. So he can't do threatens like he did to checkmate me here, right? After I take here. So if he exchange, I'm fine. Sorry. If he exchange, I can simply, even without taking back, I can simply go here. If he takes, checkmate. And if he doesn't take, well, so he has to sack his rook, and then I'm gonna checkmate him here. It's unstoppable. Unstoppable. But unfortunately, what I did is rook f6, and now he has these threats on checking me here. And this move, of course, was the blunder. I should have played even something defensive like this, and going back to here, and I'm still winning. Because if he does check here, I move here, and he doesn't have checkmate over here. And his light square bishop doesn't do anything. But no, I just had to move here and then check here and checkmate him too. It just against what happened in the board. So that was pretty frustrated, but it still, I believe, showcases you the power of this opening. Even though I played queen d7 instead of e7, it still kind of reinforced my attack over the king side. And without so many accuracies and this fatal mistake, I should have won it on several occasions. And so I hope you got something from this game. I love this opening pretty much. It aligned with my same ideas in my original opening. The anti-Scotch Gambit again, e4, you have against e4, you have against d4, you have the knights of its defense. All together just give you great opportunities against white, no matter what, because e4 and d4 are the main openings in chess. That being said, why I want you to subscribe is to stay tuned, because very soon I'm gonna record another unusual opening now for white, so you can play not e4, not d4, but rather knight f3. Not the Catalan, not the Reti, but something else, another gambit. This is hilarious opening. So many tricks, so many tactics. You can be highly aggressive and surprise even strong players. So stay tuned. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed. It helps a lot. And see you. Bye bye.